So, you know your son needs to learn about puberty, but you're not sure where to start or how much to say. Maybe he's still acting like a little boy 1 minute, and the next you're noticing smells, socks that stand up on their own, or the beginning of something changing under the surface. It's a tricky age, and it can leave you second guessing yourself. Is it too early? Is it too late? What if I say the wrong thing? Here's what I want you to know. Your son doesn't need everything at once, but there are 6 key things he does need to hear early, clearly, and without shame, because these early conversations, they actually shape how he sees his body, how he treats others, and how confident he feels as he moves through this awkward but totally normal stage of life. Now, I've spent over 25 years helping parents like you to talk to their kids about puberty and sex without shame, fear, or confusion. And I've narrowed it down to the 6 essentials boys need to know first before embarrassment, myths, or silence sneak in. Because if you don't say it, someone else will, a classmate, a YouTuber, a joke in the schoolyard, and those messages, they're not always accurate, respectful, or safe. So stick around because at the end of this episode, I'm going to give you a 1 minute challenge to open the door without turning it into a big awkward talk. What if talking to your tween about sex didn't make you want to run for the hills? On Sex Ed for Tween Parents, we ditch the awkward and keep it real with chats that actually work. I'm Cath Hakanson, sex educator, mum, and your guide to handling all the tricky stuff without cringing or making it weird. When it comes to puberty, most boys don't get the full story. They get the jokes, they get silence, or they get a vague chat that leaves more questions than answers. And that's why today we're cutting through that awkwardness and we're going to walk through 6 things that your son or any child of testicles really needs to hear. Now, these aren't lectures, they're conversations that build trust and help boys to feel calm, informed, and less alone as their body starts to change. So let's walk through them together. First one is erections, and they will happen even when you don't want them to. Yep, random erections are a thing. And they don't always mean someone's turned on or thinking about sex. They can happen in the middle of a maths class or while you're brushing your teeth. And basically, it's just a reflex. It just shows that your body's just doing its thing, and every boy goes through it at some point. So, erections. They need to know what they are and that they sometimes just happen. Also, can be helpful if you mention that this won't be happening forever. It's just while your body's getting used to having, puberty hormones, and while your body's adjusting from a child to becoming an adult. Second one is wet dreams and sperm production. So they're normal. And as your son, as his body matures, he'll start producing sperm. And that does mean wet dreams, which is where semen just comes out of their penis during the sleep. And it's a totally normal part of puberty. So it's not dirty or shameful. It's just your body figuring out how everything works. Now, the third one is that your body will grow and change at its own pace. So penis size, height, broadness of shoulders, building muscles, voice changes, body shape, all of that happens at its own speed. And there's no right timeline. Everyone grows differently. They have spurts or changes might happen in a different order, and that's okay. Now, the fourth one is about hair, sweat, pimples, and smell. So this is very much about welcome to, new hygiene habits, because kids, when little, they have this body that stays pretty clean. You might not wash their hair for 2 or 3 weeks and their hair doesn't get all oily and smelly. They get a little bit of dirt on them as they play, but they don't get sweaty and grotty and smelly. So what tends to happen during puberty is that all of a sudden they've got a body that is no longer so clean. So there's new hygiene habits that they have to get used to. So hair will start growing in new places, in the underarms, around their genitals, on their chest, their face, their bottom, their back. So they have more hair. Sweat glands will kick in. So they'll now start to get smelly under the armpits. Uh, that picking kids up after sport, and you might be dropping 3 or 4 of their mates home. And, I've had to wind the window down on the drive home because of the smell of the sweat in the car. Also, pimples and other smells can sort of appear as well because their body's creating oils. So and that oil over a few days does start to smell. So it's about showers, clean clothes, deodorant, and maybe a bit of skincare as well, depending on what's happening with their face. So that's an important one. And talking to them about the hygiene can be a real game changer as well. Fifth one is that emotions can get bigger and sometimes messier. So mood swings aren't just for girls. Boys might feel angry, sensitive, overwhelmed, or just not like themselves at all. Common complaint or concern I hear voiced from parents is they notice the changes in mood, grumpiness, social stuff might be starting to change as well. And they note this usually can start a year or two before the physical changes of puberty starts. So puberty can be about big feelings as well. And it's not about them, if they're getting big feelings. It doesn't mean that they're weak or that they're broken for having them. It's just the impact of hormones. And they can have an impact on how you feel. Sixth one is that some boys grow breast tissue as well, and it's temporary. So the technical medical term is gynecomastia. I'm probably saying it wrong. It's not a word I often say. I'm more into using everyday language, even though I do have a nursing background. So breasts, it can happen to a lot of boys. And basically it's caused by those hormone changes, and it usually goes away on its own. The slang that you hear for it, well, in my part of the world is man boobs. So there's probably other slang as well. So kids, boys need to know, even girls need to know that this can happen so that they're not teasing boys. It's common. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, and it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. And it will go away. In a moment, I'm going to share your 1-minute challenge that can help you gently start this conversation. But before we get there, I want to plant one more seed. Something I think definitely needs to happen is that boys should know about girls too. They need to understand that puberty changes happen for all bodies, and knowing that helps to build empathy, respect, and also confidence as well. So next week, the next episode, we're flipping the script, and I'm going to walk through what girls or kids with ovaries need to know about puberty, because knowing what they're going through helps boys be better classmates, friends, and eventually even partners. So now you've got the roadmap, 6 honest, medically accurate things your son needs to know about puberty. But you might still be wondering, how do I start the conversation, Cath, without making it weird? And that's exactly why I created this free guide for you. It's called 5 Cringe-Free Strategies to Naturally Start Sex Ed Conversations. And inside it, you'll find some simple conversation starters that feel natural. Easy ways to bring up tricky topics without anyone bolting from the room. And strategies that work in everyday moments, like in the car, walking the dog, or cutting up watermelon. Because when you talk early and often, your child learns to trust you, not Google. They come to you with their questions, and they start feeling more confident in their own skin. And if you ever feel stuck on what to say about erections, wet dreams, or anything else, do go check out the Sex Ed shop, because I've got a lot of puberty period and just sex ed resources that are designed to help make these conversations easier for you. Now, back to that free resource. If you go to cringe-free-strategies.com, you can grab it, or just click the link that's going to be below this. Let's move on to your 1-minute challenge. What I want you to do is ask your son this simple question. Has anyone at school ever talked about puberty or stuff like that? That's it. 1 sentence. No pressure, no lecture, no charts. just a calm, curious question that opens the door. And what you'll get is a glimpse into what they're already hearing from school, friends, or YouTube about puberty. So it's a low stakes way to show them that you're safe to talk to them. Because the real goal of the puberty conversations is not dumping all this information on them at once. It's about showing up, being available, and planting little seeds of trust so that they know they can turn to you with their questions. So, thank you for joining me for this episode of Sex Ed for Tween Parents. And if today's episode helped you feel clearer or more confident, I'd love it if you could leave a quick review. Helps other parents find this podcast and reminds them too that they're not doing this alone. And don't forget, if you go to cringe-free-strategies.com, you'll find that free guide that's got 5 cringe-free strategies for starting conversations. And next episode, we're going to dive into what girls or kids with ovaries need to know about puberty and why it's just as important for boys to understand it too. And you won't want to miss it.